the side, ref.
In From the Side is back with another episode this week. Welcome back to my co-host and partner in crime, a man with the mind of a fly-off and the body of a front rower, Matthew Rhodes.
Thanks, bud. How are you?
Yeah, good in you, Matt?
Yeah, good. Good to be seen. Thanks for the beautiful introduction there.
I thought it's very apt given the topic of our discussion this week.
Yeah, except I started in front row and then went back line. So it was a bit arse about face. I've just done a full 360. I'm now back to where I started in the beginning.
I progressively moved towards the front row, so I'm as guilty as anyone. So we're at the back end of our discussion, Matt, on Mount Rushmore.
Yeah, we're going through the full series.
Which has been a hell of a lot of fun over the last couple of weeks.
Yeah.
Lots of good banter and comments that we got from all our loyal fans out there in YouTube land. We're in the front row. We're going to pick our tight heads. This is going to be very interesting because I'm guaranteed Matt's going to pick at least one loose head at tight head. But let's see how far we go. Look, there are some players, admittedly, that has played both sides of the scrum.
Yeah.
I'm sure we'll touch on them. I've selected one of them in one of my videos. He's not going to feature this week, but he will feature next week.
We see how we go. I might have just... it might have been a ruse nonetheless, but...
Mate, if you pick John Smith as one of your top tight heads of all time, I think we need to call it quits because we're going to lose credibility.
Yeah, of course. Now, there's been a lot of good banter in the last couple of weeks. We obviously are down to the front row. We're tight head. Tight head obviously is, they're the cornerstone of any pack. Feared in the scrums, revered in silence. These boys are... built like absolute brick shit houses for the most part. And so it'll be interesting to see who we go. There are possibly going to be some conjecture, and it'll be interesting to hear your points and your comments. And if you haven't already, like the show, follow us. We're on all the socials, so make sure you do that. But it'll be good, bud. Let's get into it first and foremost.
I'm super excited, man. Kick us off.
Well, there were many great scrummages and front rowers to come out of New Zealand in the past. And one that for me stood head and shoulders above, and the first name on my Mount Rushmore is Owen Franks.
Nice one.
Yeah, so the quiet anchor that he was, I just think he was scrummaging muscle personified. So he was the engine room, I think, of the All Blacks during the golden era. Durable, strong, and he was devastating at set piece. So for me, he's definitely up there.
Okay, nice one to ease into it. I totally agree. He's on my Mount Rushmore.
Nice.
So I've picked Owen Franks. No, you're right. I mean, the anchor of the All Black scrum.
For sure.
I made this comment a while back when we spoke about the impact of someone like Sam Whitelock in the All Black Tight 5. Like, their set piece, again, I wouldn't call it a weakness. A lot of folks out there that watch New Zealand will complain if I say it's a weakness, but it definitely wasn't a strength, lineouts and scrums, right? And there were a couple of players that sort of Graham Henry brought in, Steve Anson brought in over time, 2010, 2011, that just solidified that pack and made them a lot stronger. Sam Whitelock was one of them, Retallick was one of them, and definitely on the tight head side, Owen Franks. He really anchored that scrum for many years, for well over a decade. Absolute legend of the game. Strong as an ox. I mean, what do you want a tight head to do? You want him to scrum. That's it.
Scrum.
Honestly, if you're not on the field for anything else, I know the modern game demands more of a tight head prop, but if there's anything that you do, just scrum well. Like Wilco Lowe, if you watched him on the weekend,
mate,
the way he carries, he just sort of takes the contact and goes and lies down. But he puts all of his energy into a scrum, and that's where we dominated. So that's what you want from a tight head. And I think Owen Franks, although he probably wasn't one of the biggest tight head props, he was a little bit more mobile than a lot of the guys that we'll get to. But geez, what a legend. Happy to have him up there.
Legend, power and strong as an ox, really, and that's what you want from your tight head. Your tight head usually has no neck, just literally head, shoulders, and like the stockiest squat personnel of all time. And if you've got a really strong tight head and they dominate a loose head, it gives your hooker more of an opportunity to hook the ball back. And in effect, I think that's why when the ball gets hooked against the opposition putting it in, it's called a tight head, right? And so you want that solid foundation, that cornerstone, as I said before, someone who can just be the anchor that your rest of your scrum can get around. And 108 caps, any Centurion who's a tight head, because of all the strain and the stress that goes and gets put into their body, I think is a remarkable feat. So fair play to him. As I say, 108 caps, 0 tries. Unfortunately, he didn't. But he wasn't there to make
He's
tries.
not there to score tries. Man.
He was there to scrum, 2 World Cups, multiple rugby championships, multiple Super Rugby championships with the Crusaders. A long career, and just fantastic at what he did.
Yeah, absolutely. Totally agree with you. Okay, we 1 from 1.
Nice.
I'm still waiting for John Smith to come up. Who's next on your...
I told you, it may well have been a ruse. I've been talking about this all week,
see.
throwing him off the scent. As much as New Zealand had a great individual in Owen Franks, my second, I had to go South Africa, and for me, it's Frans Malherbe. So why are you smiling?
Okay, no, why? Why? Explain why. What's your rationale behind
every time I do
picking
this,
France?
every time I do this, I'm going to look at you, and there's going to be either loose head in your eyes or tight head.
No, France is definitely a tight head.
100%.
No, I'm smiling because I also picked him.
Oh, did you?
So he's on both our Mount Rushmores.
So for me, he's the silent sledgehammer. So very much like, and this is the kind of the fabric that they're all cut from. They're just workhorses that go about it. Where Owen Franks was the quiet anchor, Frans Malherbe, he's the silent sledgehammer. I mean, he's a master technician, I think, at scrum time. And, you can't get away from, similar to Owen Franks, Frans Malherbe, 2 World Cups, 2019-23, multiple rugby championships as well. He's been a URC champion with the Stormers. He's there to scrum through and through, and that's what he does.
Yeah.
Yeah. So for me, from a South African point of view, I don't even think there's any bias here. He's one of the best in the world at what he does.
Absolutely. No, I totally agree. He is, and he deserves that credit. And it's not even because he's won 2 World Cups, but I think it's because of his impact that he had on those World Cup winning teams. I just think of that 2019 final. Sinclair, Dan Cole, those guys, they had
Big boys.
Long day against Beast and Frans Malherbe. And he had such a big impact on the tournament, especially towards the back end when we won it. And same in 2023. And for a big guy, like I said, Owen Franks doesn't really look like a tight head prop because he was a little bit more lean. Well, if you want your prototypical tight head prop, that's Frans Malherbe, dude. Yeah. I mean, he can probably sit here with us, have 3 brandies, and then still go and play the All Blacks. So,
Legend.
Absolute legend of the game. He's very quiet and unassuming off the field, but his work rate for a big guy, he moves around the park surprisingly well. Like he makes his tackles. I think about that semi-final in 2019 against Wales. Jeez, he made a lot of tackles. Like he just got around the park, and you don't expect that of a big guy. You sort of expect him to walk from scrum to scrum or from set piece to set piece. But his all-round game, makes his tackles, scrums extremely well.
Yeah.
He's got great backup in someone like Vincent Koch for many, many years, and Trevor Nyakane, who scrummed both sides of the scrum. So maybe those players coming through put a lot of pressure on him to excel and really play well. But also he's been around since Heineke Meyer's days. He's been around for
longevity.
Well over a decade now. Hasn't got to the ton, but if he stays fit, who knows? He might get there. But he's literally out of my list the only current player that I had in the tight head position because he deserves it. He's an absolute legend.
He is a legend, and you're 100% right. The work rate he gets across the park exceptionally well for a big bloke. And this is the reason why someone like Unai Antonio, for example, for France, wasn't in my selection. Also a great scrummager, also fantastic in the role. I mean, he's massive, but he walks everywhere. He just and I know you might say, well, he's only there to scrum. You talk about Wilco on the weekend, doesn't take the contacts. He just kind of falls down because he's there to scrum. But for someone like France, he gets across the park, man.
Yeah, he does. No, he's got a great shift.
Yeah, he's got a great shift, but for what he's there to do, he's sensational.
Absolutely.
Nice.
Cool.
So 2 from 2.
I did not expect that, but nice.
Do we go into John Smith now? No, I'm kidding. So number 3, who'd you go?
Last week, I said I was very biased when we spoke about 4 lock because it had a very green tint. My front row tight head prop has got a very black tint to it this week.
Oh, really?
Yeah, absolutely. Which is surprising because South Africa's produced so many great tight heads. But for me, we spoke about him when we did our fantasy All Black team. Growing up in the 90s, watching that Auckland Blues side dominate the early days of Super Rugby, the All Blacks smashing us in 96 and dominating the Tri-Nations, there was no bigger tight head prop in the world than Ola Brown.
Ola Brown?
Yeah.
Okay.
He was, for me, I don't know, I'd love to hear what the folks out there say. I'm sure out of New Zealand people will say there's better tight heads, but for me, Ola Brown was just a rock. extremely strong ball carrier. Like he would just run into a brick wall and then still make his meters. Great scrummager, great around the park, and he just left a lasting impression on me as a teenager in the 90s. So had to get Ola up there. He was for me. If I had to pick my all-time greatest All Black team, I'd still pick him. Out of any generation, I still think he's the best tight head they've produced.
Over and above Owen Franks.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
I think so.
So he'd be
But I mean, that's a subjective opinion, and it's just my opinion. But like I say, Ola Brown made a lasting impression on me. I really rated him. I think him next to Fitzpatrick, and then on the loosehead side, they had Craig Dowd. That front row was amazing. That was amazing. No, he just made a big impression on me. And looking at the list, I mean, there's some guys we're going to get to who nipped at the heels, but Ola Brown was the one guy that never went in and out of my list. Like all of the other guys, I'm like, maybe he doesn't deserve to be there. Ola was the one consistent name for me.
Yeah.
But that's just me. I don't think you're going to have him in your...
No, he's not.
In your Mount Rushmore.
He's not in my Mount Rushmore. But I understand what you're saying. That particular front row that you described was exceptionally formidable.
Yeah.
Like you obviously had Sean Fitzpatrick, who was leading that particular squad, but the three of them, Craig Dowd, obviously massive,
Great loosehead.
Great loosehead. Was a fantastic front row. Now I didn't pick him, obviously. My third pick, I went more recent, although he is retired, and I went Adam Jones. So Adam Jones for me has been someone that I've loved watching all throughout his career. I mean, his wild hair makes him easy to spot in any kind of field, but initially I think he had a wee bit of trouble in his scrummaging career, and then he managed to get really low. Like he got the ability to just really get underneath the loose heads and became very, very technical, and that extended his career exceptionally well. And I think from a tight head of the most recent years, especially in the Northern Hemisphere, there's been some outstanding Northern Hemisphere tight heads, but for me, Adam Jones on the list.
I love it. He was the first name. He was the fifth name on my list, and he was the one that jumped in and out of my list the most. I totally concur with you. I love Adam Jones. I think he's great. And if you ever want to see his impact that he has on a front row, look at the Lions series in 2009. Phil Vickery played the first test. Beast absolutely smashed them in the scrum. They brought in Adam Jones for the second test, and Beast was relatively quiet in the scrum. So he kept him in tow until he got injured because he clashed with a Mr. Buerta on the field. But no, he was awesome at set piece, great scrummager, great in the loose. He scored a couple of great tries on the wing as well. I mean, he was mobile. He had some speed, not that's expected of a tight head. But Adam Jones played 95 tests for Wales and 5 for the Lions, so he got a century. But he played 95 for Wales.
95 tests, 2 tries. He was obviously 6 Nations titles, a couple of Grand Slams in there as well. Picked for the British and Irish Lions. I think they were Test Series winners in 2009, weren't they?
No, they weren't. No, we won the series.
Yeah, we did, of course. But
won in 2013, and
2013.
I think he was on that tour. Yeah.
But most outstanding at tight end, he just was there to scrum. And again, in the very same kind of cut from the same cloth as the two above. He doesn't make... He's not someone who makes a song and dance about things. You see him getting interviewed now after, and he's got good chat. Obviously be a good man in the dressing room and to have around any team. But, when push came to shove, no pun intended, he's your man.
Absolutely.
And that's what he was there to do. And
I love it.
Very good technically in the scrummaging.
Yeah, I mean, it was head and head between him and another Welsh legend, but I think he's one of the top 2 Welsh tight heads of all time. So, yeah, he deserves a nod. He deserves to be up there. I like it.
Nice.
Okay, who rounds out your Mount Rushmore?
Mount Rushmore. So, you said that you're only picking one person that is a current player. I've gone, obviously, France as the current player still, and one other, and that's Tadhg Furlong.
Aha.
So, Tadhg Furlong, again, has been a tight head scrummaging powerhouse, not only for Ireland, but for the Lions for the last fair while. And if you look, again, at the kind of the names above him that I've already suggested, he's very similar in terms of style, in terms of aggression, and, he's just an out-and-out tight head.
Yeah, he was number 6 on my list, jumping in and out of my Mount Rushmore. But again, I can't fault you, man. He's such a great player. I mean, I think he's lost a little bit of his dynamism over the years. When he came onto the scene in 2016, like he hit the rugby world just like an atomic bomb. That first series, they toured South Africa in 2016. He was amazing. They went to, he toured with the Lions to New Zealand in 2017.
The first Lions.
He was probably, with Jonathan Davies, probably the 2 best players on that tour.
Yeah.
Like he was so solid in the scrum, which again you expect of a tight head, but he's carrying. Like
he's very mobile.
Out of all the names that you mentioned, he's probably the strongest ball carrier.
Yeah.
He'll make you the most yards. He'll get over the advantage line more often than not. And again, having that longevity, I know he hasn't got to 100 yet. I think he's also on 70 odd tests, but
78, I think.
78.
Yeah.
So you'll probably get to 100 if you look how far Ireland goes with their props. And, you know, few will deserve it more than he does. I agree. I think he's one of the best tight heads of all time. He just missed out.
He
just missed out.
And that was always going to be the case, I think, in terms of my list versus your list. I think there's always going to be a few names that you'll look back into the yesteryears and remember their feats, even though maybe they didn't have as many tests. What they performed at the time was comparable or even greater in the form of Ola Brown, for example, than the currents. But for me and for my mind and what I've been watching again throughout the most recent years, you can't look too far beyond Tadhg Furlong because of what he did, and he's still doing it now. You know, watching him on the weekend, there was good grit and muscle, and he was still getting amongst it. And
he's still playing well.
There was, I think, the suggestion that he's gone off the boil a little in the last while. He's not as dynamic as when he came onto the scene. And if you look, he scored 6 tries in the 78 test. So again, the other guys that we're talking about, 0, 1, 2, and your man's got 6. And it's because he's so mobile, he gets across the park. But again, you come back to the point. He's there to scrum, and he does it exceptionally well.
No, he does. No, he's been the anchor for that Irish scrum. And Ireland really, again, the impact of a tight head, they're one of the best teams in the world because they know. Do the basics well. You know, dominate your set piece, dominate in the lineouts. They've always had good locks, and the same in the scrum. And with Cian Healy and Rory Best for the most part of the decade, they were a great front row.
Yeah.
Loved it. Okay, yeah, he just missed out on my Mount Rushmore.
Who's your final pick?
Like I said, it's got a very black tint to it. This guy shouldn't have retired when he did, or he went to France when he did. I think he cut his career short way too early because New Zealand's never picked players that go overseas. But for me, it's got to be Cole Hammond.
I was thinking when you were going to go Ola Brown, I thought you were going to say Cole Hammond because again, in all the research I'm doing leading up to this, the amount of times that I saw his name, and obviously I didn't pick him, but I saw his name where people were saying he's the best of all time.
Here's the thing.
So that's conjecture. Obviously, that's arguable.
No,
right?
of course.
But he was, like, you talk about the 5th and the 6th names, he was the 5th on my list.
Yeah, but here's the thing. Like, I looked at tight head, and then what's the core function of a tight head? We keep saying it over and over and over. You need to scrum, dominate in the scrum, get the right shoulder, right? Yeah. Out of the 4 names on my Mount Rushmore, I honestly believe that Cole Hammond's the best scrummager. Ahead of Frans Malherbe, ahead of Owen Franks. Like, if there was a guy that would not move an inch in a scrum, it was Cole Hammond. And I'm sure he got up against, you know, good loose heads that gave him a hard time. But he was tall for a tight head, which is unusual. And the way he could, again, get low, really low, and get underneath his loose head and dominate that collision point. Him with Mialamu next to him, they hardly ever lost a scrum. It's just sad that he decided to go to France. Maybe not for him, you know, but that we didn't get to see more of him. He should have played 100 tests. He should have been easily the greatest tight head of all time. Cut his career short, went to France, but I don't think that takes anything away from his accomplishments. 46 tests for the All Blacks. Hasn't won a World Cup, but in terms of dominating that 3 position, when he was around, no one even came close. He was an absolute beast, monster in the front row. And I, again, like Ola Brown, made a big impression on me. I had to pick him.
Fair play. Fair call. Like I said, he wasn't on my list. He was number 5 on my list. And again, the court of public opinion was swaying me heavily.
Yeah.
But then when I came back to it, the guys that I've been watching, and maybe, you know, I didn't pay enough attention when Carl was owning and dominating that spot. But the likes of Tadhg Furlong and Adam Jones, for me at least, in the last wee while, have been immense in that position.
Yeah, absolutely. So I like it, mate. 2 from 4 that we agree on.
Yeah.
Before we close out the show, I've got a long list of honourable mentions. So I'm just quickly going to run through some of them.
Go for it.
Chip in where you feel necessary. Recently retired Dan Cole.
Yeah.
I mean, he's one of the better ones England has had. He didn't make it for me because I can specifically remember times that he really struggled in the scrum, specifically against South Africa.
Well, there's Phil Vickery, I think, also.
Could play both sides. He was one of those guys who played loose and tight head.
Both sides. Yeah. But Dan Cole, 106 caps. Obviously, he's got a few Six Nations, runner-up in a couple of Rugby World Cups as well. But like you say, really good servant to the game, outstanding, but maybe not quite on the mount.
Yeah.
Phil Vickery, the other one who is a bit of a raging bull, 73 caps, 2 tries, Rugby World Cup winner, 2003.
Yeah.
So for England, for me, there were a couple of others, but they're more loose heads, which we'll cover next week.
We'll get there next week. For me, from France, they produced some great props over the years in the 80s, 70s and 80s. Robert Paprambour, he was an absolute legend. Small guy, very small guy, but could get under his opposition and really dominate in the scrum. Jean-Pierre Garouet in the 80s, great tight head. Nicolas Mas, we spoke about him in a previous show as well. An anchor in the French team for many years.
85 appearances, 2 Six Nations titles. He was in the finalist in the 2011 World Cup as well with France. Again, the Rock of Perpignan, just a sensational scrummager.
Great player, loved him. Martin Castro Giovanni of Italy.
Great player.
And Leicester Tigers, just up the road.
The Wild Thing, as well known as. 119 caps for Italy. I mean, he's a legend there.
Absolutely.
Also 6 tries, very, very mobile. But you can't get away. It's like Adam Jones with his hair. He was the lion man. With his beard and with his hair. You'd pick him anywhere in the pitch.
No, I liked him. Going back into the amateur days, Ken Gray, Wilson Winneray, All Black captain in the 60s. Absolute legend of the game. Oh, South Africa, mate. Hannes Maré in the 70s, Springbok captain. A lot of the older guys watching this will remember him. Piet Spiere de Toy, Peter Steef's grandfather.
Oh, yeah.
Again, a small guy, but I don't know if there's anyone on this list stronger than him. He was renowned for his strength. That's why they called him Spiere, which literally means muscles. Jaap Bakker, yes, dude, 1956. Jaap Bakker gave the All Blacks so many, and I know people are going to argue this point, but he gave the All Blacks so much trouble in the front row that they actually brought an ex-boxer, Kevin Skinner, out of retirement to handle Jaap Bakker, and he just beat him up. He just punched him and punched his lights out in the second test. So, because he was such a handful for the All Blacks. Vincent Koch scored a try on the weekend. Great to see him get on the score sheet. But again, he's achieved so much over a decade. Just because he comes off the bench most times doesn't mean he's not a great tight head. He's one of the best we've had.
Yeah.
This one was really difficult for me because I love this guy growing up. Graham Price. Welsh tight head from the 1980s.
Yeah.
Absolute legend of the game. I think together with Adam Jones, the 2 best tight heads that Wales produced.
Agreed.
And he could have very easily been on this Mount Rushmore. I think there's a lot of people that will put him up there because he was such a legend. Adam Jones, we spoke about.
Graham Price, only 40-odd caps though. And again, I know they didn't play as much rugby back then as they do now. But if you look online and you go into all the forums, again, he is talked about in the highest of
absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. Legend of the game. Patricio Noriega, Martin Scalzo of Argentina, both of them great scrummagers. I had Sekope Kepu up there. Julian White of England, we didn't speak about. He was one of the better tight heads that they've had. Peter de Villiers, Frank Tournier, Uni Antonio, all French legends on the tight head side. Sandy Carmichael of Ireland. John Hayes. I know you like John Hayes.
Yeah.
Also one of the taller tight heads that you would see in World Rugby.
Bull.
A couple of Scottish guys, Ian Mill, Ewan Murray, and Tom Smith, one of my favourites.
Ewan McKenzie from Australia. You talk about Ewan.
Ewan McKenzie was up there.
Yeah.
Our mate Kobus Versage here in the UK, I think he was one of the better tight heads that we had of South Africa.
Very, very technical.
Very technical, great scrummer.
Was Yanni du Plessis?
He was a tighthead, mate. But now, I mean, should he come close to a Mount Rushmore?
Mate,
For me, he's not up there.
Again, in a lot of the research and a lot of the forums, people hold him in high regard.
Yeah, I'm sure they do.
Yanni, 70 caps. He was a stalwart for and a scrum enforcer for a long time in that period. You don't get to 70 caps at. It was tighthead.
He was a tighthead. Absolutely.
Double checking with my oracle. Yeah,
that's okay. I will correct you.
No, because when you were running through the South African names and you didn't pick out Yanni, and yet widely regarded, and I loved Yanni. He's a Sharks boy. Him and Busy together, and he did really well for a long time for the Bokke. Obviously, 2007 Rugby World Cup winner as well. And for me, he was also he was number 6 on my list, 5, 6. So, and again, a lot of that was, I think, heartstrings being pulled because of the Sharks connection, the Bokke connection. But I was happy. I think from a South African point, France is the better tighthead.
Yeah, he was okay. If he wanted to go for a Sharks connection, I would rather go for someone like BJ Botha, who was also a great scrummager. And then the other 2 South Africans I had on was Hempies de Tooy and CJ van der Linde, also World Cup winner in 07. Yeah. So I don't think he gets the recognition he deserves. But that's it, Matt.
Nice, brother.
The Mount Rushmore of tightheads. That was a lot of fun. Thanks for that. Next week let's do loosehead and then we finish off with hooker. So let's finish off with the props. This was really fun. We'd love to hear from you guys out there in YouTube land. Tell us who you think are the best props of all time, tighthead props of all time. Leave your comments in the comments section below. Give us a like and a subscribe. Remember to click the notification button in the corner of the screen so that you get notified every single week when we post our new videos. Go and follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. We're on TikTok. We're pretty much everywhere. We try and post every single week. So show us your love, show us your support. We'll do this again next week. Cheers.